All right, so in chapter 6, we're going to start off with understanding percents. Okay, so what I want to do here is just first define what it is. So a percent is a ratio whose denominator is 100. In fact, the percent symbol that we so often use literally means 1 over 100. So if you wanted to, anytime you see anytime you see like the percent symbol, like something like 44%, you can rewrite that as a fraction with 44 in the numerator and then 100 in the denominator. And like all fractions, you always want to make sure you reduce. So this is going to turn out to be 22 over 50, which I could break that down a little further into 11 over 25. Okay? So there's really not a lot to go over in this first section. It's just converting things. So the first thing we're going to do is this. Let's convert percents to fractions. All right, so that'll be the first one. So as we just saw in that previous example, what we're going to do if you take 36% and you want a fraction from this, just rewrite it as 36 over 100, or another way to write this is 36 times 1 over 100, but you still get the same exact thing, which is 36 over 100. And then you always want to go ahead and reduce this. So I'm just going to go ahead and just reduce it all the way down to its simplest form. So 36 over 100 is equal to 9 over 25. Okay, so I'll do a couple more here just so we can see how it goes. So 110% into a fraction. Once again, we're going to do, we'll do 110 in the numerator, 100 in our denominator. And then we just go ahead and we are going to reduce the fraction that we have. So 110 over 100 is 11 over 10. Okay. And this just doesn't stop, or this technique, we're not limited to whole numbers. We could also do something like this, like 24.5% into a fraction. And when you do something like this, what you're going to want to do is write 24.5 over 100. And now we're going to make this 24.5, we're going to make that a whole number. And in order for us to do that, what we have to do is we're going to take 24.5 over 100 and we're going to multiply this by 10 over 10. Now, if you're asking yourself, well, why did he choose 10 over 10? Here's why. This 5 is in the tenths position. And because it's in the tenths position, I'm going to multiply by 10. So that's going to give me 245 over 1,000. So now that we have 245 over 1,000, we're just going to go ahead and reduce. And that gives us 49 over 200. Okay? Now, sometimes you don't get lucky and you get like an ugly number like this. Like 33 1/3%. And we want to convert that just into a fraction. Okay? Well, what I would do is stick to what we've been doing so far, which is writing 33 1/3 over 100. Now, that's a mixed fraction. So what I'm going to do is change it to an improper fraction. Okay? So 3 times 33 is going to be 99 plus 1 more. It's going to be 100 over 3 divided by 100. Now, remember, I can make any whole number I want a fraction. So this 100, I'm going to put it over 1. And as you can see here, we're going to rewrite the first fraction. We're going to change division to multiplication, and we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. And as you can see, the 100s, they will reduce, and you're going to be left over with 1/3. Okay? So that was changing a percent to a fraction. Now what we're going to do is we're going to convert a percent to a decimal. So for example, let's say we start off with 6%. Okay? Well, technically, here's what's happening. You have 6 over 100, all right? And then you need to divide. Okay? So if you remember how to divide this, all right, and I'm going to do it the old school way. We can use long division. So 100 does not go into 6. So I put a decimal, write a 0. 100 does not go into 60, so I put a 0. I will subtract. I get 60 again. Add another 0, drop it down. 100 goes into 6 exactly 6 times. Or I'm sorry, 100 goes into 600 exactly 6 times. So, and I'm going to write it off to the right here, 6% as a decimal is 0.06. But there's a much easier way to do this, okay? And what I'm going to say here is this. Anytime you want to take a percent and you want to convert it into a decimal, what I want you to do is just write out the whole number, which is 6. Now it has a decimal on the far right side. And since we're dividing by 100, we're just going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Let's put a decimal point and write a 0. So this turns out to be 0.06. And that is the quickest, easiest way to do this. Okay? So let's look at a bunch of examples. Not a bunch, we'll look at some. So how about 78%? Well, remember, on a whole number, the decimal's on the right side. Move it 2 places to the left. And that gives you 0.78. And that's what 78% is as a decimal. Let's try another one here. How about 135%? Well, once again, on a whole number, the decimal's on the far right, so you just move it 2 places to the left. That's going to give us 1.35. Even if you already have a number that contains a decimal in it, like 23.5%, you are still going to take your decimal place or decimal point and move it 2 places to the left. And that's how easy this is. Okay? We'll do one more here. How about 0.004%? Well, like I said, take your decimal place, move it 2 places to the left. So it looks like I need 2 zeros and then the original number. Okay? And that's how easy that is. So converting to from a percent to a decimal, really, really simple to do. Okay? So the next thing I want to go over, this will be our third thing, is convert a decimal to a percent. Okay, so we're going the exact opposite way now. Okay? Now the easiest way to do this is the exact opposite of what we've been doing. So like, for example, I'm going to scroll up here. What was the first example I did? 6%. All right, so if I had 0.06, we know the answer is 6%. The question becomes, well, how do you do that? Well, you take the decimal, 0.06, and what you're going to do is you're going to multiply it by 100 and then add a percent symbol on the end. So whenever you multiply a decimal by 100, what you're really doing is you're moving the decimal place to the right. So remember, and I'm gonna write this off here to the right-hand side. If you divide by 100, move decimal to the left 2 spots. In red, if you multiply by 100, you're going to move the decimal to the right 2 spots. How about I just write 2 places, which is what I should have wrote up here, but I didn't. All right, there we go. Okay, so now that we know how to convert a decimal to a percent, let's just knock a couple out. So how about 0.41 to a percent? Well, you're just going to take that decimal point and move it 2 places to the right. And put your percent symbol. And that's it. It's as hard as it gets. Okay? Let's try a couple more. 0.0825 to a percent. Well, remember, take the decimal. 1, 2. Just move it 2 places to the right. 8.25 and add your percent symbol. Okay? Even if we had something like this. $1.7. You can make that into a percent just by moving the decimal place 2 places to the right. Oops. So we got 170%. Okay? Now, the last thing we want to talk about is converting a fraction to a percent. This is the only one that's going to require a little bit of work. Okay, and the way that we do this is we're starting with a fraction. We're going to convert it into a decimal first. And then we go into the percent. Okay? So an example was something like 3/4 to a percent. So what we need to do is go to a fraction into a decimal. And how do we do that? All we got to do is divide. That's it. Then once we have our decimal, we're going to move 2 places to the right and add your percent symbol. And that's it. So 4 goes into 3. Well, it doesn't. So let's put a decimal right at above, add a 0. 4 goes into 37 times. It's going to be 28. Subtract, you get a 2. Add a 0, drop it down. 4 goes into 20 exactly 5 times. So that's going to give us 0.75. But now we need to move the decimal 2 places to the right to make a percent. 1, 2. So we get 75%. Okay? And that's it. That's as hard as these get. So let's try a couple more here. Excuse me. Let's try 9/4. So first thing we're going to do is divide. Oh, sorry, I forgot to write the directions. 9/4 to a percent. So the first thing we're going to do is divide. 4 goes into 9 twice. All right, now I need to add a decimal. Put a 0, drop it down. 4 goes into 10 twice. It's going to give me an 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Add a 0, drop it down. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So I got my decimal number. All I have to do now is just take the decimal and move it 2 places to the right to give me 225%. So 9/4 as a percent is 225%. Okay? And that's going to be it for this video. It's a short one, like I said. What you really want to know is just how to convert back and forth between these types of numbers. I'll see you in the next one.